greeting to our listeners, and actually, for the very first time, viewers. My name is Simo Zulu, and I'm newly the other half of our hosting team here at Nocturnal Unwrap. Of course, I am not alone. Sharing the host duties with me today is my colleague and dear friend, Kristen Crack, Kristen Crack, sorry, who's also Student Planes Nachel podcast host. Good morning and welcome to you, Christian. Are you ready to do this?
I'm ready to do this.
Wonderful. Joining us today is a true guest of note, a man who needs no introduction, notwithstanding the fact that I will now spend 30 seconds or so giving it to him. With us today is one Mr Unathi Kamlana, who's here for his second rodeo. Mr. Kamlana is the very first commissioner of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, or the FSCA for short. Incidentally, it has been exactly a year and some change since he took the helm, a which we would like to extend our congratulations for. It is both an honor and privilege to have him on. Mr. Kamlana, good morning and welcome to the show. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning. Thank you, Simo. I'm very well and good to be back here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. Sir, we know you are a busy man and we appreciate you taking the time out to speak to us. Speaking of busy, unfortunately, Phila couldn't make it today because of work commitments. He sends his regards and apologies for missing this episode. I know he was much looking forward to being here, and I'm sure he can't wait to have a listen. Nonetheless, his presence will be felt as he left some questions and an opening message to you, Mr. Kamlan, which he insisted that we read verbatim, so it would be like he were here with us. Kristen will read it all out to you. Kristen, over to you, partner.
On behalf of Phila not being able to join in the podcast, as something came up, I'd like to read this section that he wrote for you, sir. Dear Mr. Kamlana, firstly, congratulations on completing a year as the Commissioner of the FSCA. It feels like yesterday that I was congratulating you on your appointment. I think we can both agree that over the rapid past few months, there have been a few noteworthy achievements over which one may be tempted to gloss, given the speed with which things progress in the financial service sector, but that we are nonetheless worthy of commemoration. I've observed with very keen interest the developments in the market conduct regulatory architecture, with you at its helm. It is as clear as day to me, not only that our industry is moving in the right direction, but that, more importantly, you are the right man to ensure that it remains on it for many years to come. Without being too long-winded and circuitous, I would like to know how you feel about the past year, what some of your highlights are, as well as some of the areas you think could do with a bit more work.
All right. Firstly, thank you for the congratulations. Really appreciate it. The last year has actually flown by. I guess that's what happens when we are quite busy as we are with the work in the FSCA. So maybe a few highlights from the last year. A lot of focus on strategy. We joined last year at a time when the organization was due to review its 3-year strategy, and that's what we did. And we published in December last year the refreshed, if you like, strategy of the organization, focusing on 5 areas. The first being embedding treating customers fairly across the financial sector. The second being how we support and promote innovation and competition. So some focus on market structure issues.
Mm-hmm.
The third being visible enforcement. So taking enforcement action, and we've said this elsewhere, that effective enforcement strategies are quite important because of the number of firms that are licensed that you cannot all reach in a particular year from a risk-based perspective. But enforcement actions, of course, serve as a credible deterrent across the sector. The fourth area, more of an internal focus, talking to us being more responsive and agile as an institution. And there's a few things that we are doing, including investing in systems and just better ways of receiving and analyzing and responding to data. And of course, the last area being how we assist households and small businesses to be resilient. And I think that's an important theme given the economic backdrop. in South Africa. So that's the strategy focus. But of course, in addition to developing the strategy, has been a focus on supervision and really executing and implementing a risk-based supervisory approach as the FSCA across the financial sector. And this is quite important because while enforcement is important, I think that effective supervisory interventions, which are forward-looking, which are timeous and early, actually avoid the situation where you have to take enforcement action, and that actually better delivers on the mandate of the FSCA, which is to ensure that customers are treated fairly. And there's been some specific decisions that you would have seen in the media also pertaining to the last year, including the Viceroy decision that we spoke to the media about last year. Also, the decision to suspend the license of an exchange last year. So it's been quite a busy year, and we've started in earnest with the execution of the strategy of the organization. Those are some of the highlights. Some of the things that I think we are focusing on to get better or get right in the time ahead of us. We spoke, I think, last time I was here about the regulatory approach to crypto assets. We're still doing work around that, and we are hoping soon to be publishing what that approach is going to be in terms of how we will be regulating in that space and delivering on our mandate and working together with other regulators as well in the financial sector. We're also doing work around the unclaimed assets. I think many people are familiar with unclaimed benefits, but we are working on a framework of putting together under one umbrella all unclaimed assets and talking to taxonomy and how you define unclaimed assets, the responsibilities of financial institutions, and how they interact with customers around unclaimed assets, the whole issue of what do you use unclaimed assets for and how do you invest them, and potentially also them being invested for the public good. So we're doing that work. So also interesting time ahead. The last issue is an issue of engagement, and this is one I'm highlighting because it continues to be very, very important and central to the work of the FSCA to continuously engage stakeholders, including, of course, financial institutions themselves at the appropriate levels in the institutions, but other stakeholders as well, such as the Prudential Authority in the Reserve Bank, other regulators in the financial sector, and of course, being held accountable in Parliament. We've had those interactions, and we will continue to focus on that as well going forward. So that's been the year, and that's a little bit about what we'll be doing in the time ahead as well.